What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight UK Season 7, Episode 15, Commitment Ceremony number 3. So let's get into it. So we find out in this episode that after the dinner party, Gemma and Matt did not move in together. Matt refused to move in with her, so he was in another space, and she moved into their apartment alone. And Matt said that he felt really good about it. He says he felt fine about not moving in with Gemma, and Gemma said that she felt really broken that she was in the apartment by herself. So we get to the commitment ceremony. First up is Sophie and Jonathan. So Sophie and Jonathan, okay, they're cute, they're adorable, they're attractive. They consummated their marriage. I guess they're having, really good adult time with one another. So they're fine. They're in the in the newness of their relationship. They're still in their honeymoon phase. And so, they really don't count right now. So everything is fine with them. And they both say that they want to stay with one another. Sophie once again talks about how she feels really safe around him and that they laugh a lot together. So right now they're in the really, really early stages of their relationship. They haven't ran into challenges yet. So we all knew that they were going to say stay. From there, we move on to Zoe and Jenna. So this was a better week for them than last week, because last week they had a big issue with the whole veganism thing. So this week they said that after talking to the experts about how they were struggling with this whole vegan thing, things were a lot better this week. I'm not exactly sure how it was better, but it was better. Okay. Veganism was not an issue for them. So Zoe says that one thing that she really misses is having that really close best friend type of vibe with Jenna, that they don't have that. They get along, everything is fine, but she wants that kind of relationship where they feel like best friends and where they can laugh and have, just have a really good time with one another. And I guess not be so serious, or not to have their whole existence revolved around this relationship. Like, she wants to be able to get to that point where they can actually act like friends who want to be around one another. I'm assuming that's what she meant, but she says that she really misses that. She really misses having really good belly laughs with someone close to her, and just that closeness of a really good friendship. She misses it. So Jenna says that it's hard for her to let down her guard when she feels like, her trust is not fully there with Zoe. And the expert says, the experts say to them that y'all may have connected physically. Y'all might have physical intimacy, but y'all don't have emotional intimacy. So that's something they need to work on. So they both had decided to stay with one another. Now, Jenna felt some kind of way after they made their decision. And Jenna says to us that Zoe has this habit of throwing curveballs at her. In other words, when Zoe was talking about how she misses having that close friendship vibe, and she wants that with her and Jenna says, I never heard this before. She never has come to me with this. So this is something that she could have told me before we came to the commitment ceremony. She could have told me this is how she was feeling, but how can I work on something that I don't even know was a problem? So yeah, she doesn't like that. She goes, she has a habit of doing that. And I guess it was the same thing with the veganism thing. She says some things that Zoe was unaware of. So I'm beginning to think that Zoe doesn't want to be in this relationship, because if she's throwing these kind of curveballs and, creating these problems at the commitment ceremony, but these problems are not in existence in their day-to-day life, then it seems like to me that Zoe probably is trying to find an out. Moving on to Keisha and Kwame. So they also had a very good week, especially after Dr. Charlene came to pay them a visit, the intimacy expert. So when Dr. Charlene came to visit them and have them do their intimacy exercise, well, they didn't need much coaxing. As soon as Keisha came out in her sexy lingerie, in all of her glory, it didn't take much. So next thing you know, Keisha and Kwame, they needed a moment alone. They kicked everybody out of the room, the whole entire camera crew. And so they made it do what it do. So they tell the experts this week that they're doing really, really great, thanks to Dr. Charlene. And so they're feeling very positive with one another. And so they both decided to stay. So I guess they finally consummated their marriage, and both of them are a lot less stressed out. Moving on to April and George. So April and George are struggling. and they're struggling about their future because George said that they've been bickering a lot lately because they're trying to be on the same page as far as what life will look like for them after this experiment. So George was saying that his kids are very important to him. They're his priority. So he will always be where his children are. And I don't know if they were talking about possibly moving or if April had suggested to move in with her and wherever she lives is far away from where his kids are. I have no idea. But, he said something like he kind of indicated that maybe April may have a problem with him having children. And April was like, no, stop right there. I've never had an issue with you having children. And she gives an example of how they were watching some home videos of him and his kids. And she said to him that, he looked happy when he was around his children, and his children were great kids and they all looked happy. So she was like, I don't have a problem with you having children. And so then George says that because he's got these kids to worry about, he doesn't want his children to be hurt. So it's not just himself, the possibility of him being hurt if things don't work out between him and April, but also his children being hurt. Like after, I guess, he introduces his children to her and maybe they form a bond with her and then it doesn't work out. And then, the kids are left being hurt. And so April tries to convince him, I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul. And I was thinking to myself, is George using his children to manipulate April into staying with him forever? Is that what he's doing? Because I know, George, I know that you're not callous enough to use your children to try to keep a woman around. But that's what he said. He's like, I got to worry about my kids and my kids being hurt. And that's when she was like, well, I'm not going anywhere, George. I don't know. I hope and pray that George is not doing that. So they both decided to stay with one another and to work through their issues. Moving on to Thomas and Adrian. I don't know if Thomas had something to drink before they sat on that damn couch, but Thomas was giddy. He was so giddy. So they sit down on the couch and he's really happy. And the experts were like, wow, this is a completely different Thomas. You're so much lighter and happier. So they said that the intimacy exercise really helped them. It helped them get a lot closer. And Thomas thanked Adrian for being his safety net. So they're doing fine this week. They're doing fine. And like I said, at the dinner party, when it looked like Thomas was about to fly off the handle, Adrian was able to reel him back in and Thomas was able to listen and take heed, which was good. So they both decided to stay with one another. Then we have Whitney and Duca. So Duca, of course, says that they're fine, but Whitney's face said otherwise. So Whitney said that she needs Duca to follow up his words with action, not just talk a good game, but be about it. So the experts say that Duca needs to show more emotion. He shows absolutely no emotion at all. And because he doesn't express his emotions, it comes across as fake to Whitney. And Whitney's biggest issue with Duca was that he is fake, that she can't figure out who the real Duca is. So Duca says that he's going to work on that. He's going to try to be more vulnerable and express more emotions. Now, Whitney said that she wanted to leave the relationship, and Duca said that he wanted to stay. Now, if one person says leave and the other person says stay, well, both of them have to stay another week in the experiment. So Whitney is stuck with Duca for another whole week. Sometimes I wonder, when one person wants to leave but the other person wants to stay, the one who wants to stay, sometimes I wonder if they want to stay because they want to stay and make the relationship work, or because they want to just stay on the show or stay and be a part, or still be a part of the experiment because they want to be on a TV show until the very end, or they like hanging out with the other cast members because maybe they've formed friendships with everybody else and they don't want to leave just yet. Because I find it hard to believe that Duca wants to stay in a marriage with Whitney because there's no chemistry between them. That one brief moment when they actually got along, there was still no chemistry. They got along, but it seemed more like on a friend level than a romantic level. So I don't think Duca wants to be with Whitney as a husband. I don't think Whitney wants to be with Duca as a wife. And Whitney is ready to cut it loose. But Duca wants to stay, but I just think he wants to stay either because he just wants to be on the show or because he still wants to hang out with his friends that are still on the show. But so Whitney's going to have to endure Duca for one more week. Moving on to Shanita and Jordan. They had a great week. because, it was very tumultuous last week. Shanita was diagnosing Jordan with ADD or ADHD, and he didn't like that because, whatever. So they were really struggling last week. But this week they said that since they've talked to the experts, things have improved, and now they're happy with one another. So they both chose to stay. Now, moving on to Jem and Matt. So Jem's overt sexuality made Matt question what type of a woman she was in real life. Okay. So obviously, because she was making herself so easily available to him sexually, he was like, is she like this with all the other men in her past or in her life? Is this the kind of woman that she is? Now, that's being very misogynistic and sexist, because people should be able to do whatever they want to do as long as they're doing it with other consenting adults. It doesn't matter. And men always get a pass for sleeping around, but women get judged very harshly. So the double standard it's sickening, but this is the world that we live in, and people think this way. So the experts say that her aggressive sexual nature is a way to distance herself emotionally. So because she doesn't know how to connect with a man on an emotional level or on an intellectual level, she uses this whole sexual thing to kind of like, well, I don't have to, you're not gonna, I don't want you to really know the real me, so I need you to be at a distance. So we're just going to have fun, and that's it. I think that's what the experts meant. So Gemma says that she doesn't know how to flirt, but she wanted to convey to Matt that she found him attractive and that she liked him. Well, honey, you're going to have to learn how to flirt. You're going to have to learn how to flirt, because you're just giving off desperation. Okay. You're giving off very strong, desperate vibes. So you're going to have to learn how to flirt. You don't have to be that way. You can just have a conversation, try to get to know someone, and then everything else will follow if the chemistry is really there. And to hear Matt and Gemma tell it, at their wedding day, the chemistry was definitely there, but it all dissipated when he realized, well, she's kind of coming off as a cheap floozy. I'm thinking that's how he thinks of her. That's not what I'm saying. So you're going to have to learn how to flirt. You're going to have to learn how to be a little bit more subtle, because I think for when a man wants to make a woman his partner, his wife, he's looking for that type of, I'm just going to assume he's looking for that. In the beginning, when y'all don't know each other, especially in a situation like this, it's not like they've been dating for years and then they got married. Okay, they met at the altar. So this is like meeting a date for the very first time, and you don't want to give your date that impression that you're easy like that. So most women would not come off that strong initially, but she really wanted him to know that she was attracted to him. So she felt like the only way for that to happen was to be overtly sexual. Now, in my previous review, I gave my theory because I realized that it's only Keisha and Gemma who are very overtly sexual, and they're the two plus size women on the show, the only two plus size women on the show. And like I said, I'm a plus size chick, so I'm not dogging plus size women because I'm part of the club. But I've always felt like when I was watching Keisha and Gemma, I feel like maybe they don't have any confidence in the men being attracted to them physically. So they feel like they have to let the men know that, hey, you might not like my exterior, but I've got something else that you're going to like. And so they use their sexuality to draw the men in and thinking that that's going to keep them. But it actually scared them away. And the men aren't thinking, oh, you're plus size, so the only thing you're good for is, a romp in the bed. They're not thinking that. They're just thinking you're coming off really strong. Can we kind of like scale it back a bit? So it ends up kind of backfiring on them, but they just need to have the confidence that they have what it takes to attract any kind of man, without having to be overtly, because anybody can lay down with somebody. That doesn't take much, but can you connect with them intellectually or emotionally? Now, Kwame, I don't know about him. I don't know if anybody needs to be connecting with Kwame, because this week he was a little bit more tame, but normally Kwame really rubs me the wrong way. But Matt, maybe there's hope with Matt and Gemma, but she really needs to scale it. She needs to understand that she's got something to offer this man, because they had such a strong connection initially. She's got something to offer this man that he will actually like, besides sex. That's going to come regardless. That's going to come eventually. Try to see if y'all can have a conversation without talking about sex. Can y'all have fun without talking about sex? Can y'all connect without talking about sex? So they both decided to stay. They're both going to work on their relationship. Matt said that now that he sees things from her perspective, he kind of understands her a little bit better. We shall see. Thank you so much for joining me for this review. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, don't forget to rate the video. And if you like this content, please go ahead and subscribe. And I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.